He took note of the cause and effect, as he should have been taught to by the Master Pangloss. What was the cause? What was the effect? And without hesitation, saluted Candide with some notable kicks on the rear, and drove him out of the castle. Damn, right in the middle. Well, the scene was just heating up, you know? Miss Cunegonde, the tender, the lovely Miss Cunegonde, fainted away, and, as soon as she came to herself, the Baroness boxed her ears. Thus, a general consternation was spread over the most magnificent and most agreeable of all possible castles. Chapter 2, What Happened to Candide among the Bulgarians. Candide, driven out of this earthly paradise, wandered a long time without knowing where he went. Sometimes he raised his eyes, all wet with tears, towards heaven, and sometimes he cast a melancholy look towards the magnificent castle where the fairest of young baronesses lived. He laid himself down to sleep in a furrow, heartbroken and supperless. The snow fell in great flakes, and in the morning, when he awoke, he was almost frozen to death. However, he dragged himself to the next town, which was called Waldsberghof Tarbfdorf. Without a penny in his pocket, and half dead with hunger and fatigue, he took up his stand at the door of an inn. He had not been long there before two men dressed in blue fixed their eyes steadfastly upon him. Pause for just a second there. Turns out that Frederick the Great's recruiting officers wore blue uniforms. So these are a couple of officers here to recruit him. "Faith, comrade," said one of them to the other, "there is a well-made young fellow, and of the right size." Upon which they approached Candide, and with the greatest civility and politeness invited him to dine with them. "Gentlemen," replied Candide with a most engaging modesty, "you do me much honor, but I really don't have enough money to pay my share." "Money, sir," said one of the blue to him. "Young persons of your appearance and merit never pay anything. Why, are not you 5 feet 5 inches tall?" "Yes, gentlemen, that is really my size," replied he with a low bow. "Welcome, then, sir. Sit down with us. We will not only pay your bill, but we will never allow such a clever young fellow as you to be short on money. Mankind were born to assist one another." Now remember, they're recruitment officers. "You are perfectly right, gentlemen," said Candide. "This is precisely the doctrine of Master Pangloss, and I am convinced that everything is for the best." His generous companions next begged him to accept a few crowns, which he readily complied with, at the same time offering them an IOU for the payment, which they refused, and then sat down at the table together. "Have you not a great affection for—" and it's just got a line with a question mark. "Oh, yes, I have great affection for the lovely Miss Cunegonde." "Maybe so," replied one of the blues, "but that is not the question. We are asking whether you have not great affection for the King of the Bulgarians." "For the King of the Bulgarians?" said Candide. "Oh, Lord, not at all. Why, I've never even seen him in my life." Then the blue guy says, "Is it possible? Oh, he is a most charming king. Come, we must drink his health." "With all my heart, gentlemen," said Candide, and he drinks his glass. "That will do," cries one of the blues. "You are now the support, the defender, the hero of the Bulgarians. Your fortune is made. Your fortune is assured." So saying, they handcuffed him, and carry him away to the regiment. There he is made to wheel about to the right, to the left, to draw his rammer, to return his rammer, to present, to fire, to march, and they give him 30 blows with a cane. Right, that's the end. This, and 30 blows. The next day he performs his exercise a little better, and they give him but 20. And the day after he comes off with 10, and is looked upon as a young fellow of surprising genius by all of his comrades. Candide was struck with amazement, and really could not conceive how he came to be a hero. One fine spring morning, he took it into his head to take a walk, and he marched straight forward, conceiving it to be a privilege of the human species, as well as of animals in general, to make use of their legs how and when they pleased. He's just being silly. He had not gone above 2 leagues when he was overtaken by 4 other heroes 6 feet high, who bound him neck and heels and carried him to a dungeon, because you're not allowed to use your legs when you please. You're not free. You are to be overtaken at any time. At the court-martial, he was asked which he preferred, to be flogged 36 times by the whole regiment, or to have his brains blown out to a dozen musket balls. In vain did he remonstrate with them that the human will is free, and that he choose neither. So they said, which one do you want? He says, I do not want this one, and I do not want that one. I'm not choosing one of them. And they pressed him to make a choice, and he determined, in virtue of that divine gift called free will, to be flogged 36 times. They said, you better just choose. So finally he chose, because he has free will, so he chose. He had gone through 2 floggings, and the regiment being composed of 2,000 men, that made for him exactly 4,000 strokes, which lay bare all his muscles and nerves, from the nape of his neck to his rump. As they were preparing to make him set out the 3rd time, our young hero, unable to support it any longer, now he's only got 2, and there's like 4,000 more people to go, but only 2 of them have even gone yet. So, unable to support it any longer, he begged as a favor that they would be so obliging as to shoot him through the head. The favor being granted, a bandage was tied over his eyes, and he was made to kneel down. At that very instant, the king of the Bulgars happened to pass by. He made a stop and inquired into the delinquent's crime, and being a prince of great genius, he found, from what he heard of Candide, that he was a young metaphysician, entirely ignorant of the world, and therefore, out of his great clemency, he condescended to pardon him, for which his name will be celebrated in every journal and in every age. A skillful surgeon cured the flagellated Candide in 3 weeks by means of emollient unguents prescribed by Dioscorides. And there's a footnote for that. Dioscorides, or whatever, was a Greek physician of the 1st century A.D. who traveled with the Roman army as a surgeon and wrote a treatise on medical remedies. 1st century A.D. His sores were now skinned over, and he was able to march when the king of the Bulgarians gave battle to the king of Abaris. Now to chapter 3. How Candide escaped from the Bulgarians, and what happened to him afterwards. Never was anything so gallant, so well accoutered, I don't even know that word, A-C-C-O-U-T-R-E-D, so brilliant and so finely disposed as the 2 armies. The trumpets, fifes, oboes, drums, and cannon made such harmony as never was heard in hell itself. The entertainment began by a discharge of the cannon, which in the twinkling of an eye lay flat about 6,000 men on each side. In the twinkling of an eye, he says. He uses such light terminology for killing so many people so quickly. The musket balls swept away, out of the best of all possible worlds, 9 or 10,000 scoundrels that infected its surface. The bayonet was next the sufficient reason of the deaths of several thousand more. Now there's a footnote for the sufficient reason. That is a specific term, a phrase, quote, employed to ridicule the Leibnizian terminology of deterministic optimism. So it's a play on words versus Leibniz. The bayonet was the next sufficient reason of the deaths of several thousand more. The whole might amount to 30,000 souls. Candide trembled like a philosopher, and concealed himself as well as he could during this heroic butchery. So where was Candide when his regiment was in battle? Concealing himself as well as he could. He didn't want to be part of the heroic butchery. At length, while the 2 kings were causing tedium, T-E space D-E-U-M, which the footnote says is a satirical reference to the custom of warring nations to invoke the blessing of the Almighty and to ask Him for victory. So to pray to the Almighty for victory in battle. While the 2 kings were doing this, they were causing it to be sung in each of their camps. Candide decided to go and reason somewhere else upon causes and effects, somewhere else, away from the battle.